I am the chair and vice chair and secretary and treasury secretary and or just treasurer if you prefer of a lot of different fan clubs. Amari Washington's one, Terrence Ferguson. I've retired that role now after a successful 3-year tenure, so I present my resume to the chairman position and everything underneath of the Kenyan Sadiq fan club because this guy's great. So his true freshman season, Sadiq played, had just 5 catches for 24 yards and a touchdown. And then he's someone who Will Stein talked about in the offseason as, yeah, I have to be able to get him the ball more. And guess what? He got the ball a heck of a lot more, almost quintupling his reception total, going from 5 to 24. He went from 24 yards to 308 yards, and he had 2 touchdowns, both of which, of course, came in the Big Ten championship game against Penn State. He is an absolute mega talent. Highly rated 4-star guy coming out of high school in the state of Idaho, and I think he is about to pop. I would be stunned, barring an injury, if his numbers are not all noticeably higher than what he did this past year. 24 for 308 and 2 touchdowns. I don't know how he only catches 2 touchdowns. I know it took Oregon a while to get a tight end into the end zone this past season, but Sadiq can score in more ways because, they can hand the ball off to him or do a little pop pass down on the goal line. See if you can come up with this. Be honest, of course. Trivia question. What was Kenyon Sadiq's touchdown in his true freshman season in 2023? In which game did it occur and on what style of play? So I am incredibly bullish on what he brings to the table. And so are some of you. Mailbag questions, wide open to all of you. YouTube comments, Twitter. Become a Locked On Ducks insider. Link in the description below. You can get a free 14-day trial. Then it's just $5 a month. You get priority mailbag access and other perks as well. Darkwing Duck 91 says, "Hey Spencer, thanks for the name shout out the other day and answering my question." Well, here we go. Here's another. Should the 2025 offense be run through Kenyon Sadiq? No sarcasm here. I'm not asking if it needs to be to the level of Tyler Warren at Penn State, but should Sadiq see between 6 to 8 targets a game? I believe he's the best overall returning player on the roster. Ooh, best overall returning player on the roster. That is not an. It's not as insane as it sounds when you consider Oregon just lost 2 NFL caliber offensive tackles, one of whom's going in the first round, a first round projected defensive tackle in Derek Harmon, a second or third projected round pick in Jordan Birch. That's tough. I'm going to go Mateo Uyunglele for best overall player, but Sadiq is easily a top 5 returning player on the roster. He might not even be outside the top 3. But as for his target share, 6 to 8 a game, when you said it, I initially thought was low, but then you realize what that actually means for a tight end because of how involved they have to be in the running game. What I think you're going to see from Sadiq next year is you'll see 6 to 8 targets / touches minimum. Because remember, they will hand the ball to Kenyon Sadiq from time to time or give him a little pop pass, and that's not it. It's a reception, but it's really a rush. He had 5 carries for 24 yards this year. So overall, he had 29 touches. He's going to blow past that number next season. And he's just someone who can run a lot of different routes. You can get him the ball on screen passes, and he can run fly sweeps, end around, pop pass, middle of the field, down the field. We haven't seen him demonstrate what was kind of one of his defining traits coming out of high school, which was his leaping and contested catch ability. I wonder if that doesn't get broken out a little bit because that was more a T-Ferg thing. But now Kenyon Sadiq's going to be the number 1 tight end. But I'm with you that this does not need to be a Tyler Warren level run the offense through him because there are no other options around that are viable. You've got Evan Stewart, DeCorian Moore's coming in, Malik Benson, the transfer from Florida State, and then a bunch of guys ready to pop like a Justice Lowe, Jeremiah McClellan, Jurion Dickey, Kyler Casper. There are a lot of receiving options in there. And don't forget Jamari Johnson, the second tight end from Louisville. I'm sure we'll have some sort of role. I don't think it'd be huge per se, but I don't think Will Stein or whoever the offensive coordinator is looks at Sadiq and says, let's run the offense through him. I think he's just someone who you heavily feature, but you continue to allow the offense to be what it's been for the last couple of years, which is get back there and facilitate, make the right reads, go wherever it is, and trust you've got a high-level playmaker wherever you're throwing the football. And Sadiq is one of those guys who you do drop a couple of individual plays for. But bullish on Sadiq? Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to the coaching staff aspect of this for just a moment, because Ohio State, after winning a national championship, has lost its defensive coordinator, its offensive line coach, and offensive coordinator. That's a lot to replace in 1 year. I would be truly surprised if you could find me a team, and I'm sure there are some serious sleuths out there who know things even I don't even come up with all the time. Give me the last team to win a conference championship and or a national championship that was replacing both coordinators and a major position coach, which to me is offensive line, defensive line, secondary, or receivers. Not that linebackers and tight ends aren't important, or running backs, but those would be the position coaches I think have the highest level of impact, just off the top of my head. Both coordinators and a major position coach. Which team has gone on to win a conference or national championship? I'm not saying Ohio State's not on Oregon's schedule next year. I am not saying to look at the Buckeyes and see them as a team that can't go out and beat anybody in the country. If Oregon ends up matching up with Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game next year, rest assured that is not going to be the same level of Ohio State team. It just isn't. This is very Washington-esque once Penix and the receivers went out the door. Now, 2 of the receivers are back, but who's playing quarterback? My guy Jay Stevens of Locked On Buckeyes is psyched to watch the position group battle. He said it's legitimately going to be awesome. They've got a trio of options in there. Or 2 options, sorry, because one guy, Devin Brown, transferred out. But between Lincoln Keenholz and Julian Sayin, both guys have been in the program for at least 1 year. Sayin was the more highly rated recruit, was originally at Alabama. Now he's Ohio State. That could be a really, really fun quarterback battle for him. But they're just replacing a lot. So a team that on any given year can be a hurdle to Oregon's championship aspirations, and was this year for the second time, is not going to be at that same level, in my view, in 2025. Now, my everydayers are probably thinking to themselves, or perhaps yelling out loud back at me, but Spencer, you don't think Oregon can get to that same sort of level? No. I do not think Oregon can be as good in 2025 as they were in 2024. But could they give themselves an opportunity to prove me wrong by maybe winning the Big Ten championship game will be an advantage next year, whereas this year it was obviously a disadvantage for who Oregon had to play in the college football playoff. But maybe next year it'll be an advantage, and you'll think back to this conversation and go, oh yeah, Ohio State lost a whole bunch of guys and a whole bunch of coaches as well. And it takes a while to get things going. One reason that I was high on Oregon coming into this year, staff continuity. Lanning had the same offensive and defensive coordinator. That had not happened in like a decade. I believe the last staff to have that, I think there was a Helfrich staff that had the same offensive and defensive coordinators from 1 year to the next. They move around a lot, but losing both in the same year, when a head coach hasn't moved, I can't remember when that's happened to Oregon. And I don't anticipate that will anytime soon. But as I discussed earlier, maybe an offense coordinator in Will Stein will be on the move. We'll wait and see how this all plays out. But I look at Ohio State and Oregon and say they should both be high-level teams next year. Don't think either one's as good as they were this year. But you know what? The only team I feel confident in saying they will be great next season right now is Texas. Texas will be really good. Their defensive line is disgustingly good. I think Arch Manning has got plenty of potential at quarterback. Get past the name factor. Guy could be really, really good and is kind of a traditional high school recruit who's come in, waited his turn, developed, and now he's ready to go. So That's the only team I think automatically is great next year. There are a lot of questions in college football. And think about this. When you ponder my position on Oregon in the national championship come 2025, I am not always right. I try to be right more than I am wrong, but I am not always right.